Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Bible Talk from the Green Room. Happy Saturday, and welcome to Journey Through the Bible. We are in 2 Samuel today. Thank you for tuning in. We'll jump right into the notes here and work our way through this book. The book of 2 Samuel, it talks about David's life. Most of David's life is captured in there. However, it continues over into First Kings, which is where we end up getting the detail of the death of his life. When we open up the book of Second Samuel, there, the Amalekite gives a different account of the death of Saul compared to what was in First Samuel. There, he twisted the facts, hoping to get a reward from David there. But his reaction that he got from David is not really what he anticipated there. The king's life, even Saul's, was sacred to any true Israelite. Therefore, when David heard the Amalekite story, what he did is he executed the man because he had killed the anointed king of Israel there. So, when we go moving through the book, one of the most beautiful poems that David's credited with is in chapter 1, verses 19 to 27. I encourage you to go read that. Then when we roll into it, it kind of breaks it into three sections here. David's rise, which is in chapters 2 to 10. David inquired of God where he should set up a kingdom, and God's answer was to go to Hebron. And so he did that, and no sooner than he had done that, the men of Judah came and anointed him king of the house of Judah. So his being obedient there and listening to God ended up giving him a different position and duties to go fulfill for God there. And after a few years of opposition from other tribes, David won the heart of all Israel because of his abilities and his great spirit. He had no rival. Um, he captured Jerusalem and set it up as the capital of Israel. And since the day of Joshua, Jerusalem alone has had defied the attack of Israel. Jerusalem is the capital, would not cause jealousy between the tribes there. So it was an ideal place. It was a neutral territory in the middle there, and we'll see on the map in a minute. And it was provide an excellent fortress for the capital city because where it was located there. After David had established Jerusalem as a capital, he wanted to bring the Ark of the Covenant there. Remember, we talked about the Ark of the Covenant back in 1 Samuel. It had been sitting there, and having the Ark in Jerusalem would provide a special attraction for the northern tribes, and it would help unite the northern and the southern ends there. And after the Ark came to Jerusalem, David, he was still troubled because it was still sitting in a tent. He called Nathan the prophet and he shared his feelings with him on that and talked about building the temple. And David, you know, that was kind of where he went through there. Next was starting to plan out the building of the temple, and he should proceed with the plans. But then Nathan ended up telling David that David's son would end up building the temple there. So it was a little bit of transition there. You know, you're told what's going on, and then you're like, nope, we're going to wait, and your son's going to do this. But David is told that he's going to be compensated for his faithfulness, that his throne would be established forever. Now, what this is and how this promise is going to be fulfilled here might be a little different than what you think there, because this is pointing to Christ. And when Christ returns, he's going to reign on the throne of David forever. So that's what that is pointing to there. I mentioned a map a while ago about all the territories that David had conquered. You can see I highlighted them in yellow here, green, whichever way it looks to you. And what it shows is all the area that he conquered there. And basically what that did was that it increased Israel's territory by 100%, because that was a lot of land. There were actually 6 territories that were added into that. It says under David's leadership as king, Israel reached what was called to this day the golden age of Israel. There were no idols and there was no spiritual weakness of any kind going on. and the nation prospered during this time. But when we get to chapters 11 through 20, that's David's fall and punishment. Things kind of change there, and this story is very well known. It is where, in all the Bible, this is a very tragic story here. David's army was fighting the Ammonites, but their king was not with them. While David was back home strolling through the palace there on the roof, he saw the beautiful Bathsheba bathing, and he sent for her, and they committed adultery at this time. And she became pregnant at this time. And so what happened is David sent for her husband to come home and stay with her, hoping that they would be together. And then everyone would think that the husband was the one that impregnated her there. But he chose to be a good king or a commander in the army, and he said, hey, if my guys are staying on the battlefield in the tents, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to stay with my troops while the war is going on. So that didn't work for David to use as a cover-up. So what David did is he sent a letter to Joab telling him to send Uriah, who was the husband of Bathsheba, out to the front line so that he would be killed. And that is what happened there. So David's sins of adultery and murder, they haunted him for the rest of his life. And he had to reap what he sowed there. And, the stories go on to show that. David was confronted with sin by the prophet Nathan. During this encounter, David sentenced himself to 4 types of punishment. We're going to read through those. The child who Uriah's wife bore to David ended up dying on the 7th day. That was the first one. Amnon, David's son, ended up raping his sister Tamar. Absalom killed Amnon for raping Tamar. That was the third thing there. And then Absalom leads a rebellion and is killed by David's soldiers. So all 4 of those things kind of tie in together as a cascading result of the sin that had happened early on. And David's reaction in that, he wept and he wished that he had died instead of Absalom in that one there. And then when we get to chapters 21 to 24, we'll call that the closing days of David. After the rebellion, David once more ruled over Israel. Reconstruction began, and David collected great provisions for building of the temple. In the last verses of 2 Samuel tell of David's purchase of the threshing floor on which he erected an altar, and later that's where Solomon's temple ended up being built. The death of King David is recorded in 1 Kings there in the 2nd chapter, verses 10 and 11. He died at the age of 70. To this day, he is regarded as the greatest king that Israel ever saw. He took a nation of chaos and tried to get it straight. He built a dynasty there that would endure over 400 years. His son Solomon would be a great king too, but his success was built upon the groundwork that David had provided there. So that's kind of an overview of 2 Samuel. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you have a good weekend today. Everybody stay safe. Sounds like the weather might get a little ugly this evening. And remember, keep mental health a priority. Take some time, kick back, cut your phone off this weekend, rest, do a mental inventory of yourself. Make sure everything's the way it should be. If it's not, hey, there's no shame in seeking out some help. Also, reach out to your friends, ask them if everything's okay. We got to create dialogue like that between our family and friends to where people feel comfortable to open up. And that's a great thing about Christianity and life. Christianity and the success of you telling more people about Christ is based on relationships. Just as life, if you're in business or if you're working with people, relationships are key to everything. And that's what Jesus wanted. Jesus wanted us to be in relationship with each other just as he desires to be in relationship with us. So the more time we spend with people, the more time we spend connecting, getting to know people, we build trust, tears down walls, and then it allows us to share Christ with them. It also allows us to have an environment where if things are going on in your mind that you can share with each other and hopefully get some help for people. So thank you for turning in tomorrow, if you're around Spivey's Corner and you're one of the guys, come on out. 8 a.m. men's breakfast at Shady Grove Church. They've asked me to come over and share tomorrow morning. I'm really excited, looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing some guys I hadn't seen in a while, meeting some new folks. So y'all have a good weekend. Love you all. Talk to you later.